The prairie glowed with the fading light of the sun, long streaks of gold and red stretching across the open sky. The Comanche camp was alive with movement, though a weight seemed to hang over it, as if even the horses tethered near the river sensed something was different that night. Smoke curled upward from cooking fires, carrying with it the scent of buffalo meat and herbs. Women bent low over their work, scraping hides, mending garments, braiding their children's hair. Warriors moved with purpose, their hands busy sharpening knives and arrows, their eyes quick to catch every shadow that passed. It looked like order, a harmony of daily life, yet beneath it ran a current of tension. To Elena, it felt like the ground itself was shifting, ready to swallow her whole. She sat alone at the edge of camp, her knees tucked to her chest, her hands red and raw from scrubbing hides that morning. Dirt clung beneath her fingernails, and her palms ached with the sting of countless cuts, but she had not dared stop until the women dismissed her. Her back ached, her lips were cracked, but she did not cry. She had learned long ago that tears brought nothing but mockery here. Yet inside, where no one could see, her heart throbbed with fear so heavy she could hardly breathe. She had been taken months ago, though time blurred into one long night of survival. She had been part of a wagon train, a cluster of wagons that moved slowly across the Llano, chasing a dream of reaching the mountains beyond. Her father had walked beside the oxen, her mother had sung softly to keep the children calm, and Eleanor had clutched a small doll made of cloth, a doll she had thought she might someday give to her own daughter. The raid had come with a fury she still saw when she closed her eyes. The thunder of hooves, the shouting of men, the crack of rifles, the screams of women. The wagons had burned, her family scattered like leaves in a storm, and she had been carried off into a world she had never imagined. Some captives had been traded quickly, their fate sealed within days. Others were broken with harshness until they bent under the will of their captors. Elena had survived by another means. She worked. From the moment she could stand, she had learned to cook, to sew, to mend, to clean. Those skills had become her shield. If they demanded food, she cooked. If they tossed her torn garments, she stitched. When the elders' wives gave her hides, she scraped until her hands blistered. She did everything asked of her, and when she had nothing left to give, she whispered songs her mother had once sung, soft and low, as if weaving pieces of her old life into the new. But survival had its limits, and now she stood at the edge of one. The elders had decided she would be sold. She had overheard their words in the language she only half understood, heard the trader's laugh, and seen the gleam of coins in his pouch. At dawn, she would be tied to a horse and taken away. The desert would swallow her, as it had swallowed countless others. There would be no return, no escape, no end but chains. That night, as the fires flickered and the camp gathered for council, she felt her knees weaken. The trader sat proudly near the flames, his eyes gleaming with anticipation. He was a heavy man, his hair streaked with gray, his hands thick and greedy. The pouch of silver coins rested at his side, each piece a measure of her worth. The elders' faces were stern, their voices measured and calm, though she could feel the weight of their decision pressing against her chest. Something broke inside her then. For months she had borne her fate in silence, but silence now meant death, or worse. Her body trembled as she stepped forward closer to the fire, and the crackle of the flames seemed to echo her heartbeat. The trader barely glanced at her, certain the deal was already his. The elders did not expect her to speak, but she did. Her voice cracked at first, so hoarse it was almost lost in the wind, but the words came, spilling out of her like water breaking from a dam. "Don't sell me," she cried, her eyes glistening with tears that finally escaped. "I can cook for your families. I can sew your clothes, mend your moccasins, patch your hides. I can clean your camp, tend the fires, fetch water, gather herbs. I can help heal wounds. I can sing to your children when they are frightened. I will do anything you need. Don't send me away." The murmurs rose immediately. Warriors exchanged glances, some amused, some thoughtful. Women paused in their work, their expressions softening as they listened. The trader scowled, his thick lips curling in anger. "She is already sold," he barked in his rough accent. "A deal is a deal. I have paid before, I will pay again." She has no voice here, but she did not stop. Her knees struck the earth as she fell forward, reaching out as though she could grab the future with her bare hands. The dirt clung to her skin. Her tears streaked through it, but she kept speaking, her voice stronger now. "Chains are chains. Whether I am dragged to the desert or kept here, I will bear them. But here at least I can still have hope. Here at least I can serve. I beg you, let me stay." The fire snapped, sparks lifting into the night sky, and the camp held its breath. The elders leaned together, their voices low, their faces unreadable. The trader protested loudly, slapping the pouch of coins with his palm. But no one rushed to answer him. Among the crowd stood a young warrior, tall and proud, his shoulders broad, his eyes sharp as a hawk's. His name was Kahana. He had fought in raids, had proven himself in hunts, yet he carried a weight in his chest that set him apart from the others. His gaze fixed on Elena, not with scorn, but with something he did not fully understand. He saw her not as a captive, not as a bargain, but as a girl with eyes like embers refusing to die. He had seen many beg, but not like this. Her words were not of escape, not of freedom, but of service, of giving. That made them stronger, harder to ignore. When at last the elder raised his hand, the camp grew silent. His voice carried in the still night. "At dawn we decide. For now she remains." The circle broke, the crowd dispersed. The trader grumbled, furious but powerless, retreating to his tent with the clink of coins at his side. The elders walked slowly, their heads bowed, deep in thought. Children were ushered away, women whispered in low tones, and soon the fires burned quieter, smaller. Elena remained kneeling by the fire, her body trembling with exhaustion. She had thrown everything she had into her plea, and now she felt like an empty shell, waiting for judgment. It was then that Kahana approached. He moved silently, his moccasins making no sound against the earth. He knelt beside her, his presence both steady and unsettling. For a long moment he said nothing, simply watched the flames dance in the dark. At last he spoke, his voice low enough that only she could hear. "Why fight so hard to stay here when your people are far away?" Elena lifted her eyes to his, her face streaked with dirt and tears. "Because chains are chains," she whispered, her voice ragged. "But here I can still hope. Here I can try to be useful. Here I can still live." Kahana's jaw tightened. He did not answer, but the words struck him deeper than he expected. He rose and walked away, yet her voice followed him into the night. As he lay beneath the stars, staring into the endless sky, her plea echoed in his heart. She did not beg for freedom. She begged for a chance. And somehow, that was harder to ignore than anything else. The night gave way slowly, the last embers of the council fire glowing faint red before the morning chill dimmed them to ash. The camp stirred in waves, one sound folding into another, the soft bleating of goats, the restless shuffle of tethered horses, the crackle of kindling being coaxed back to life. The first streaks of light spread across the prairie, pale and cold, and with them came the heavy silence that pressed against Elena's chest like a stone. She had not slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the trader's face, smug and certain, his hand clinking against the pouch of silver coins. Every time she let her mind drift, she felt the weight of ropes on her wrists, the sway of a horse carrying her to a place from which no one returned. She sat by the fire pit, her arms wrapped tightly around her knees, her body stiff with exhaustion. Around her, women moved briskly, starting their chores, the smell of smoke and boiled corn drifting on the morning air. No one spoke to her, but some glanced at her from the corners of their eyes, watching, waiting. She was the storm at the center of camp, the decision hanging above her head like a blade. The trader was already prepared. His pack horse was saddled, loaded with blankets and goods, ready to carry one more burden. He paced near the council circle, his thick fingers brushing the pouch at his belt, his eyes sharp with impatience. He muttered under his breath, words Eleanor couldn't understand, but whose meaning needed no translation. He had already counted her as his. The elders gathered slowly, their movements deliberate, as if the weight of the morning demanded patience. They sat in a circle again, their faces calm and grave, their hands resting on their knees. The people drew closer, forming a wide ring beyond the fire pit. Their voices hushed, their gazes fixed on what was about to unfold. Elena's throat burned as she swallowed. She had no words left. She had given them all the night before, poured out her heart until it felt empty. Now she could only kneel again, her hands clasped tightly in front of her, her eyes lowered not from shame, but from the heaviness of waiting. Her entire body felt taut, like a bowstring pulled too far, ready to snap. The trader stepped forward first, his voice booming with authority. He spoke quickly, angrily, waving his arms.